Hello and welcome to the second episode of Spoiler Spotlight. We've got a lot of ground to cover, so let's get started. As predicted, we finally get the two remaining temples, Temple of Melody green-black, Temple of Epiphany red-blue, so now we don't have to run those guild gates anymore. As you may have noticed from the background, the newest iteration of Ajani has been revealed, and with this new Ajani we also get our first Selesnya-colored planeswalker, so everyone rejoices. And this new Ajani is very interesting. It's a 5 casting cost planeswalker, which is a little expensive, but he does have 2+ abilities, one of which requires you to have creatures in play, while the second ability provides card advantage, and the ultimate is pretty ridiculous. Just make sure you don't get skullcracked. My prediction is that Ajani will see play in a more creature-based deck rather than a pure control deck, just because the control decks already have a ton of planeswalkers and don't really need more of them, and also because Ajani doesn't really have a way to put pressure on the board, so I think it will fit nicely in a green-white aggressive deck or maybe even a banned mid-range value deck. Which brings me to this next card, Sage of Hours, a blue mythic rare. It's got heroic, but more importantly, once you get 5 or more +1/+1 counters on them, you can remove them and start taking extra turns, so that sounds nice. So it combines very nicely with the new Ajani since you can put 3 +1/+1 counters on him. And you might remember Master Biomancer from Gatecrash. This one gives +1/+1 counters to creatures that enter the battlefield after him, equal to Master Biomancer's power. While this doesn't use the heroic ability on Sage of Hours, I think it's a safer way to activate him, just because getting your hand full of combat tricks while you don't have creatures on the board is pretty miserable. But as you can tell, this seems a lot more powerful than simply drawing an extra card with Ajani every turn. A magic set would not be complete without a few cycles in it, and together with the 1-drop Minotaur I showed you in the previous episode, this is the cycle of creatures with Bestow that have weird drawbacks. These might not see play in Standard, but I think in block constructed they might see the light of day. Next on our list is Keranos, God of Storms. This is the second god from Journey Into Nyx revealed so far, and he looks pretty sweet. His ability provides card advantage, it can be used as removal, it works nicely with Scry, and I don't think he will be losing the late game with Keranos in play. But on the other hand, I do think you want to build a deck with a lot of devotion to blue and red in order to make Keranos a creature, because like with most other gods, if you don't make it a creature, it might not be good enough, because it's a little slow to get started. But devotion doesn't have to mean creatures. I do think you can make him work if you play permanents like Ral Zarek or Jace Architect of Thought that provide enough devotion and are powerful by themselves. Next up is Godsend, a long-awaited equipment for Standard and maybe even some other formats. It's a little slow to get started at 3 to cast and 3 to equip, but it does provide double devotion to white, which is a thing, and it also gives +3/+3 and a nice bonus on top. This type of card is very powerful in mid-rangey creature matchups, but it can also be powerful against control decks because it turns every creature you have into a giant threat. But given that it's a legendary artifact and that it's a little slow to equip, I think decks that want this will only play 1 or 2 copies. Next up are these 2 cool flash enchantments. They are most likely part of a cycle, and their effects have appeared many times before in Magic, but giving these enchantments flash does change the dynamic of the cards a whole lot. By playing Dictate of Kruphix during your opponent's turn, you will be able to draw the first additional cards. Same goes with Dictate of the Twin Gods, where if you flash this in end of turn, you will be able to deal massive amounts of damage to your opponent when you untap. While cards like Dictate of the Twin Gods are very dangerous, if you plan it out correctly and play this on the end of your opponent's turn, untap and kill the opponent, then there's no drawback of course. Dictate of Kruphix has a ton of applications. If you combine it with a Fate Unraveler, your opponent will be dead pretty quickly, or if you combine it with Notion Thief, you will be gaining a lot of card advantage while your opponent won't. This transitions us nicely into the promos. Eidolon of Blossoms will be the Biobox promo, Squelching Leeches will be the promo for Game Day, and Dictate of Krufix will be the promo for the Game Day top 8, and Dictate of the Twin Gods will be the launch promo. All the pre-release promo cards have been revealed as well. I covered the green one in the previous episode, and here you can see the other 4, and here are the non-promo versions. The green one is still missing though. As usual, these cards might not see play in Standard, but they are pretty powerful. Charioteers makes for an awesome heroic target. Scourge of Fleets is a cool reanimation target if that ever happens. Doomwake Giant goes well into an enchantment based deck, and the dragon is the closest thing we'll get to Bugarden Hellkite. Our first rare with Strive has been revealed. Cetacean Tactics goes well into a green-white heroic deck. It's a little heavy on the green if you want to target multiple creatures, but you do get multiple heroic triggers, and it's a nice piece of removal that is sorely lacking in a green-white deck. And last but not least is Underworld Coinsmith. This is another enchantment creature with Constellation, and he gains you 1 life every time, and he also has a lot of reach with his second ability, so this card would fit nicely into the black and white enchantment based deck. We already have a lot of powerful black enchantment creatures like Spiteful Returned and Herald of Torment, so this card could gain you back the life that you are losing with your Herald of Torment. Alright, that's it for this episode. I want to thank you for watching and stay tuned for the next one.